Welcome to another episode of This Movie Needs More Flavor. I'm Adam.
I'm Josh.
In this episode, we'll be talking about the 1985 Martin Scorsese film, After Hours. Griffin Dunne stars as a man named Paul Hackett, who works as a word processor in New York City. After meeting a young woman in a coffee shop one night, he arranges to see her again. Unfortunately for him, his night will go completely off the rails from one moment to the next in an attempt to visit her and get home. So Josh, what did you think about all this?
I'd like to thank you for introducing me to this film. I'd never seen it before, and honestly, I'd never paid attention to Scorsese comedy before. So I appreciate that, and I'd also like to express my appreciation for two things. The beauty of the opening and closing tracking shots in the film. The opening tracking shot covers a lot of ground in about 4 seconds, and it just zips right into him as he's contemplating just noping out of there, and it just bails out on Balky and goes.
Yeah.
And that's in total contrast to the closing tracking shot, which is like a minute long. And as he's just sitting down, getting back into it, he's almost welcomed. And I noticed in the tracking shot that as it flows away from him, once it comes back around to where he'd be, he's no longer there. So it's kind of like he's settled in, and obviously there's got to be some significance towards him not being there once it rolls back around.
No, that kind of struck me as well.
So you did notice?
Yeah, I noticed he wasn't there. I didn't know if there was any significance to it, but I did take note.
Right? I mean, I was looking for kind of a hidden cut where like maybe they shot the rest of it later on.
The film is so odd to begin with that it literally could have had him, balancing plates, juggling, and I would have gone with that too.
Right. Okay. All right. And I'd also like to express my appreciation for one of my favorite side characters, and that is the guy who mistakes him for a bi-curious encounter. But why I appreciate this guy is because in a sea of people who don't give a damn, he's the only guy who actually like sits tight and hears him out. I'm going to give him credit for being one step higher than totally indifferent towards this poor bastard. Another thing I'd like to discuss, and it's something that I really don't have anything on, so I'd like to hear your perspective on it. I'd like to know what's with the burn references.
That one actually flew over my head as well. I wasn't really clear on the significance or as to why he was so focused on it, but I understand your curiosity about that.
Right? I mean, because it starts with when he's massaging Fiorentino's character. He's like, and they told me never take this blindfold off in the burn board. And then his apprehension because he sees a little burn cream when he's rifling through her stuff. It's just like, where's it coming from?
I kind of attributed that to him being just a neurotic character.
And in like seeing it, I question whether or not it was, I'm so confused by it. I'm questioning whether or not it was meant to be a comical aspect or whether or not it was just something built in to throw me the hell off.
Well, there was one point where he sees a burn, and then at another point he sees a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's him just kind of losing his mind over the night or what the deal is. Questioning his sanity.
And there's definite reasons to question your sanity if you're his character.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's one of the things that cracks me up about this film is just how they keep, I mean, it's a standard in a lot of comedies you see to just keep bringing things right back around. But this character, he's just driving himself towards it. He is. First off, I mean, he rolls back to that apartment 3 damn times, including after the poor girl's offed herself. I mean, he's just rolling right on back in. I mean, he goes back to the other dude's apartment a couple of times to encounter the friggin' neighborhood watch out there, a militant, man.
The only apartment he's not getting to is his own.
Mm-hmm. And beyond that, my favorite rollback around Absolutely. And it's a thing that just lets you know what's going on at the start of that film is when he gets into that damn cab.
Right.
Breakneck speed to deadpan expression on cab driver face when you ain't got that cash. I mean, that cab driver's face kills me.
No, if looks could kill.
Oh, yeah. And that's not a guy to be trifled with. I mean, he's cutting through traffic like crazy. Again, with the comeback around. He spots that taxi. He's got that 20. And it's got to be that dude who couldn't give a damn about his excuse. And that was the thing. It was a perfect symbol for the entire night. Breakneck speed, encountering people who couldn't give a damn about your situation and your desperation. And it just makes it all the more funny for that. And that's really my take on it. And I'd love to hear your perspective.
Well, thanks a lot, man. What always gets me about this film is the tonal shifts. Like, it's very fitting considering that this movie had a lot of chefs, so to speak. The movie's a roller coaster. It's weird, it's fun, it's sad, it's tense, all in one. And that works for it. It's not easily categorized. I guess you can call it a drama. You could call it a dark comedy. But it's all of those things and none of those. But it makes it so interesting. As I was watching this film again, though, the Paul character is kind of a jerk when stressed out. I feel like he misses a lot of opportunities to help himself by being so standoffish with others, which it had me thinking, you catch more flies with honey.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, one of my favorite parts is when he cooks down that joint. I mean, just
right.
I'm tired of this situation. You know what? This weed shit. And you're a liar, and I'm the F out of here, and that's that. And I'm like,
he's just had enough.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, maybe have enough and excuse yourself for the evening.
Right. Maybe don't piss off your host,
And again, it's that, he has an opportunity, and he just drives forward towards the re-encounter,
Kind of his own worst enemy in those situations, especially after the story she told. It's like, after that, be a little nice. This movie also features Catherine O'Hara and John Hurd in a scene together years before they became terrible parents to Kevin McAllister and left him at home one year and then completely lost him another year. So I guess this was the moment they met each other, and it was fitting how they met each other, being crazy vigilantes, calming down a little bit, you neglect your children. I don't know.
Right. He just lost somebody he cares about. She's all keyed up. And, hey, she's got her own softy van. Dude.
Let's start a business, move to Chicago, and have a bunch of kids. But it was interesting seeing them, especially a little bit younger. Catherine O'Hara, she was not used to seeing her that young. Wow. Much more youthful. Okay. So during the process of making this film, Martin Scorsese enlisted the help of a few notable directors to help with the ending because he didn't know what to do to end this thing after so many crazy things. He enlisted the help of Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, Terry Gilliam, and old school director Michael Powell. And through all of the advice, it was director Michael Powell's advice that Scorsese ultimately took. And that's the ending we see in the film, which, not as wild as some of the ideas were, was very fitting. I think it was very fitting. I mean, what are you going to do? You can do so many crazy things after the night. I think it ended well. It kind of brought that plane to a standstill.
And really, as she's wrapping him up, I was questioning the entire time where it was going. I was like, is this going to end poorly, or is this going to end well, or how is it going to come to a close? It's got to be clean. I knew it was going to be tight. I knew the ending was going to be all wrapped up. But how it was going to get there, I had no clue. And I was so fearful. I was like, dude, you're not going to say anything? You're trapped in there.
Yeah. So this was actually swept under the rug when the movie was being made and first came out. It didn't get a lot of press, but a good portion of this film is actually plagiarized. The writer given main credit on the film, Joseph Minions, was accused of plagiarizing a work from a man named Joe Frank. Apparently, this man had used the material that set plot points for the movie in a 1982 NPR Playhouse monologue named Lies. The producers of After Hours paid a settlement to Mr. Frank and attributed credit to him, and this ultimately remedied the situation. For me, this doesn't actually detract from the movie because movies have several writers, as it is sometimes. So it's basically just one writer changing hands, finally gets credit, and that's great. That's ultimately what matters to me, is the original writer got credit, and it made for a really, really interesting movie. Some of the lifted ideas was a man meeting a quirky woman, the woman's roommate making bagel and cream cheese paperweights, cash flying out of the window of a cab, and the story Marcy tells Paul about the man who came down the fire escape. Those were the main things taken from the original monologue that, of course, set up big points of the movie. Very big points. There's another scene in the movie that also mirrors somebody else's work, but I'd like to think this was much more intentional. And that is the scene where Paul encounters the bouncer of Club Berlin. When he has a conversation with his bouncer, the conversation is literally taken from Franz Kafka's parable Before the Law, which was originally a short story within his larger novel, The Trial. So those were issues with the film as it was being made. I'm glad they were addressed because everybody's work really turned out well. I find it to be one of Scorsese's very underrated works. I would highly recommend people check it out if they got the chance. Definitely give it a shot once. That's my opinion about that.
Yeah, if you're a fan of Scorsese, take it from somebody who just recently encountered his comedies. They are, at bare minimum, worth the watch. At the most, something you will unexpectedly appreciate.
The music sampled was Long Night by Cloud System, courtesy of TuneTank.com. Thanks for joining us on This Movie Needs More Flavor. If you enjoyed what you heard, you could always like, share, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and follow us on Instagram. All that fun and flavorful stuff that really helps us out a bunch. Our info is in the bio. Thanks again, and keep listening.
Until next time, take care.